Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama
Hare
Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much,
Hare
Mataji. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
I can say
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I welcome you all for the Saturday Bhagavad Gita class. I missed you all very much. From the last 3 weeks, I was not available, and I could not give the classes. And very mercifully, Kavita Mataji and Aishwarya Mataji agreed to give the class. So I'm really thankful to both of them. And I hope your learnings are going good in chapter 3. You all have covered till 15th verse, I guess, right? Yes. So we'll start with prayers. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितंश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, भगवद गीता की जय। Thank you so much for joining. We are just 2 weeks away from Gaur Purnima, and by your all mercy, I have got this opportunity to speak on Bhagavad Gita. So, preaching Krishna consciousness, ourselves practicing Krishna consciousness is something which is very dear to Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And by your mercy, I am getting this opportunity. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat pranams.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So, anyone would like to give a short brief of what you have understood till now? What was covered in the last class? It was from 3.11 till 15, right? Okay. Uma Mataji, Rajalakshmi Mataji, Sindhu Mataji, Sudha Mataji, would you like to speak? What you
Hare
could,
Krishna, Mataji.
yes,
They were
ma'am.
speaking about yagnas, how to do yagnas, and
Mhm.
what are the uses, and which are the different ways of doing yagnas. And ultimately, the final exam in Kali Yuga is Sankirtana Yagna.
Yes. So
Yes,
Sankirtan Yagya is the only Yagya for which we Kali Yuga people are qualified, because
yes,
for all the other Yagyas there is a lot of purity required, purity of purity of our purpose, purity of our own consciousness, purity of things that we are using for the Yagya, purity of the priest who is going to perform the Yagya for us. There is a lot of purity. And if I just give you an example, there are kilos and kilos of things required. One of the most important ingredient is ghee. And where do you get pure ghee in Kali Yuga? It's very rare, right? Even if you get it, it is very costly. And if you have to have kilos of ghee, where are you going to, how are you going to bear the cost of so much, right? So all the different types of yagyas that are applicable for different ages, based on that, you can get, you are able to get out of the material modes and you can transcend this material world. But in Kali Yuga, all those other methods like deity worship, performing yajna sacrifices, and doing tapasya for many, many years. All of this is not possible. Satyuga people used to live for thousands of years. They more than 10,000s of years, and they used to do tapasya for thousands of years. So for us, doing tapasya for even 5 minutes is a very big challenge. Every now and then people get this question of how do we chant attentively? My mind is not stable. So even for concentrating our mind on the Hare Krishna mantra for 2 hours is such a difficult task. Who are we to do tapasya for thousands of years? So very rightly said, Mataji, that the other yagyas, other sacrifices are not possible for the sage, and therefore the Sankirtan yagya is the only yagya that we have to perform in Kali Yuga. Apart from that, what else did you take away from the class? Anyone else would like to add some points?
Hare Krishna Mataji, we get rice or the food grains from after getting rain only. So we get rain when we perform yagnas or sacrifices. That was also said in the last class.
Yes. Basically, if we are performing yagya, then the demigods would be pleased and they would provide rains. Because of the rains, the food grains will be there. Because of food grains, the living entity's life would be subsisting upon. And if we, as another form of sacrifice, which is offering whatever we are eating before eating, if we are offering it to Krishna, then we are not eating sin. So then we will have this much of intelligence that we would be able to understand the Shastra and perform Yagya. So you're getting all of this is a cycle. Then again, once you are performing Yagya, which means Yagya, wherever I'm saying Yagya, for us, you can consider chanting. Okay, so now when you have this much of intelligence, if you're eating prasadam, your intelligence is purified and your heart is purified. With this purified heart and intelligence, you would be able to chant the holy names. If you're chanting, then you would again satisfy the demigods. The demigods would be pleased and give you rains. The rains will give grains. So this cycle of sacrifice is what is given by Krishna in verses 14 and 15. I will quickly share my screen. Please let me know if it is visible. Is it visible?
Not yet, Mataji. It's coming. Yes,
Mataji.
Okay. Yeah. So in this 14 and 15, all living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya or sacrifice. And yagya is born of prescribed duties. So this prescribed duties you will not do unless and until you have understood karma yoga, right? And this is what Krishna was trying to make Arjun understand from 11 to 15. Then regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Someone might say that what is the need of performing prescribed duties and why are Vedas so important? So the Vedas are coming directly from Krishna. If you would have seen this verse, which would have been covered in the last class, here it is mentioned. Open from my book. So here it is mentioned that Brahmakshara Samudbhavam, right? Akshara is the Supreme Lord, and Brahma, which is referring to Vedas. So the Vedas are coming from the Supreme Lord. Someone might question that how are the Vedas coming from the Supreme Lord? So that comes from the breathing of Mahavishnu that Prabhupada gives in the purport. So from the breathing of Mahavishnu comes the Vedas. And why, like someone might question that how can this happen, that if the Lord is just breathing and the Vedas are coming, how can this happen? So that is the thing that you have to understand, that Lord can do anything with his any senses, but we cannot do it, right? He can eat from his hands, he can speak from his legs, right? He can do anything from any of his senses. Anyone remembers which particular verse of Brahma Samhita, which generally we recite, that particular verse refers to this particular quality? Lord Brahma tells about Krishna. right? So Angani asa sakalendriya vritti mantra, right? So there are Brahmaji is telling that Lord, the Supreme Lord, basically he can do anything from any of his senses. He is not limited. If someone has this question that how can this happen and this is not true, so then you have to understand that you have limited intelligence and limited ways of working. If Krishna also has limitations, then how is he the Supreme Lord? The Supreme Lord will not have any limitations. He can work from any of his senses. You might not be able to, but that does not mean that Krishna will not be able to, right? So this is how we have to understand that if something of the Supreme Lord is told, which is very difficult for us to comprehend because it is not generally observed by us in this material world, that does not mean that the Lord is not capable of doing it. So therefore, this is what we were discussing, that the cycle of sacrifice is something which is very important, right? So first we'll go through a quick summary of this third chapter. Yeah. So basically what happened initially was that Arjun had a confusion whether renunciation is superior or karma is superior, because Krishna very, like in this second chapter last section, he was continuously giving the glories of Buddhi Yoga and person who is self-realized. How does he walk? How does he talk? And how is he able to control his senses and all those things. So Arjun understood that this jnana, this renunciation is something which is supreme. But at the end of it, then Krishna says that you should get up and fight. So now he is confused that, okay, if you are saying that jnana is superior, then like buddhi yoga, if I have to use my intelligence and renunciate, then I am also saying the same thing. I am also wanting to renounce this war. I do not want to fight. Then at the end of it, you are saying that you can get up and fight. So this is confusing Arjuna. So now when he's having this confusion, he's asking his confusion to Krishna in the first two verses. Then Krishna tells him that Nishkam Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga. If you actually see the general culture of India, many people think spiritual life as Jnana Yoga, right? What is Jnana? What are the Jnana Yogis generally doing? They generally leave their families and they are practicing alone, right? And they are doing a lot of scriptural study, doing a lot of analysis of the scriptures, but they are not getting involved in the day-to-day materialistic activities with other people. So this is what has been the culture mostly. And therefore, it is a general idea of people that if someone is wanting to practice spiritual life, they would leave everything and go. This is the biggest fear why most of the parents do not allow their children as well. If anyone wants to start practicing Krishna consciousness, generally the parents are the ones who would start saying, "Oh, you're such a young child. What's the problem? There is a whole life remaining. You can do this in your old age." And there are so many different reasons that they will give. But and why they are giving? Because they fear that you would leave the family life and you would go away. So this is the biggest confusion people are having. And this confusion, Krishna is clearing here in this section, wherein he says that Nishkam Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga, which means that premature renunciation is discouraged. If you have not achieved a particular stage of spiritual consciousness, you cannot renounce your material duties, right? And this inaction is actually unnatural. Even if you leave it, you will not be able to properly leave it. Why? Because your mind would dwell on the sense objects, where in sixth verse, Krishna tells that a person who has renounced everything, but in his mind he is continuously contemplating of the sense object, then he is basically a pretender, mithyachari. This is a word which Krishna uses in the sixth verse. You would just notice that Krishna many times calls fools mudha, right? He many times calls this particular word in Bhagavad Gita, but mithyachari is something which is a very strong word. And why Krishna is using that here is because a fool is someone who is cheating himself. He knows something, but then he's trying to cheat himself and do something else. But a mithyachari is one who is cheating others, right? So a person who has come into spiritual life, but still he wants to dwell on the sense objects, and that is why we see there are so many fall downs. There are so many so-called sadhus who have left the home, but this is the example of premature renunciation. They did not achieve a particular spiritual consciousness and they left their homes early, right? They started their spiritual life not based on the bona fide guru's instruction. And therefore, because their mind was uncontrolled, they fall down because of they were continuously dwelling on the sense objects. Also, we should not judge anyone on, let's say, for example, if a particular person has fallen down from his position, we should not be the person who is judging them, because we do not know which particular person is where in their spiritual life. We just have to consider ourselves that I am very far from my spiritual goal. Let the others, I should not be the one to judge others. But when we are in a position where we have to take a decision because it will impact the life of others, then like a particular judge or a government person, they have the right and they also have the opportunity to correct the action. Then they are on that position to catch such pretenders, and we have to rectify their actions. So this is what a pretender does, is the one who has prematurely renounced the material world. And there is a sincere person who will not renounce, but who would work as part of Nishkam Karma Yoga, and he will do his prescribed duty. And how would he do his prescribed duty? He will work for Vishnu or Krishna, and thus based on the work, because he is doing it for Krishna, he will not be attached to the result. This we covered in detail in the second chapter when we were covering Nishkam Karma section. So based on this, he will not be getting bound by the reactions of the work. If we are just doing a particular work, but if we are not doing it for Krishna, then by default that work will bound us. There is a very nice lecture, very short lecture by His Holiness Haldar Swami Maharaj, and I really liked it because what he says, he gives it for devotees. He said, "Where are the devotees going? Are they going to Swargaloka or are they going to Vaikuntha?" So by default, we think that we have come to Krishna consciousness, we have got four hands, we have become very much elevated. But what happens is, any person, and in general life also, in material life, if you would see that if someone dies, someone would say that, okay, where is that person now? We say that Swargavas, unka Swargavas ho gaya, right? But who are we to say whether he has gone to Swarga or not? Because to go to Swarga, you have to have the qualification, like you should be extremely pious person, you should not be having any envy towards others, you should not be having any bad feelings towards others, you are a good person actually, and then you become eligible to go to Swarga. So what about Swarga? Any person in Kali Yuga, no one is going to Swarga so easily. By default, everyone has to go to Yamaraj's court. There also you have a very big queue. And then Yamaraj, based on your activities, he would decide that, okay, now this person has to go to Pitraloka or this person has to go to Swarga for some time, right? Totally depending on our activities. But definitely we have to go through many punishments. So if we are thinking that we are having a very good life and we are doing so nice things, and we'll definitely go back to Goloka. So Goloka is very, very far. Right now, we are not even qualified for Swarga, right? So just understand that it's not so easy in Kali Yuga. Just like if you just keep a ball in a river, that ball would by default go with the flow of the river, right? So the by default flow of the Kali Yuga people is to go to hell, right? Actually, when we say go to hell, that is actually true. Anyhow, everyone is going to go to hell. But only devotees who have actually taken Krishna consciousness very seriously, and they are understanding Bhagavad Gita and they are trying to practice Bhagavad Gita, they become eligible. They become eligible by the mercy of Guru and Krishna to transcend this very difficult material world and go back to Krishna. So that is just, I wanted to make everyone understand that it's not that easy. And for that, we have to start working now. When we say I have to do my prescribed duty and I have to work for Krishna to avoid bondage, first of all, understanding our prescribed duty is important. There are many prescribed duties: duties of a wife, duties of a child, duties of a husband, duties of sannyasis, brahmacharis. There are different duties, right? Different duties of a son, duty of a daughter. There are so many duties. Doing that duty, even in unfavorable conditions, is something which will purify us. And when we do that duty for Krishna, if I go to Krishna, Krishna, I had so much difficulty in performing my duty today, but I still tolerate it just because I want to please you. Krishna, please give me the strength. Then Krishna will take away all the reactions of that particular work. Am I making sense? Is everyone able to follow? Or is it too fast? Uh, if someone can give a confirmation.
Yes,
No,
Mataji.
Mataji, we
Yes,
can follow.
Mataji.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Yes. So this way, this particular section was all on how Krishna was telling that Nishkam Karma Yoga is better for Arjuna than Gyan Yoga. But then someone might think, just a minute. Then someone might think that, okay, I am not that eligible. I am not able to perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. I have material desires. So a person who has material desires, he's lesser in his level of spiritual consciousness. But Vedas are so merciful that they have given duties for everyone. If let's say you are not on this level, okay, you perform duties at this level. So at this level means that from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga. If you are a Karma Kandi, that means if you just want your happiness, if you just want to do any work for your own satisfaction, then at least you come to this much of state that you do some yagya. You should be grateful to the demigods. You should not be a thief that who is just taking things from the nature, who is taking things from the Lord, and you're not being grateful, right? If you're not eating food which is offered in sacrifice to Krishna, sacrifice means offering food to Krishna. That's a sacrifice. Because if you cook food, you had the initially when we were not in Krishna consciousness, what we used to do, okay, mummy is just doing the chapati and directly it is coming into our plate, right? Dosa coming into our plate, any other thing coming directly into our plate, right? There was no concept of Krishna. But after coming to spiritual life, we understand that the biggest sacrifice is to offer food to Krishna and chant the holy names of Krishna. So if we become so much cognizant that okay, it's my by default duty that I should be thanking Krishna for the food grains that he is giving me so mercifully, and we offer it to him, then he takes the reactions of it. And therefore we do not eat sin. If you would have gone through this particular verse 3.13, where Krishna says that those who eat without offering to Krishna verily eat only sin. Now someone might question that what's the problem? If I eat sin, okay, what's the problem? So you tell me, you all tell me, what will happen if I eat food which is not offered to Krishna and I am eating sin? I know that okay, I'm eating sin. But what are the consequences? Any one of you can unmute and say. Jigisha Mataji?
Sorry, Mataji.
I'm saying that if let's say I get to know that I am eating food and I'm not offering to Krishna, but when I'm doing this activity, like not offering to Krishna, I'm eating only sin. Okay, a devotee preaches to someone that okay, you are eating only sin. So what? He will say, okay, I'm eating sin. What's the problem? So what are the consequences of eating sin? What will happen?
Nothing will go right, Mataji, according to me.
Can you be more descriptive of what will happen? How is his intelligence?
His intelligence is lost, Mataji. Explain, Mataji. I'll not be able to explain, Mataji.
Yes, no problem. So basically, what happens is when we are eating food which is not offered to Krishna, the food is not purified. And then when we are eating sin, our intelligence is not purified. If my intelligence is not purified, I will not be able to discriminate between right and wrong. If I'm not able to discriminate between right and wrong, mostly I would choose the wrong. Right? And every decision, every work that I am doing, anyhow, that is sinful. The whole, we'll see today in 3.16 that the sinful life is totally wasted, right? A person who lives a sinful life lives in vain. His whole life is a waste. So when we are wasting our life in this way, we had, let's say, when I took birth, I had this much of my, I'm just telling you, let's say this is Mount Meru. Mount Meru is much, much bigger than Himalayas, Mount Everest. And so this is, let's say, Mount Meru. I had Mount Meru level of sins in my account when I took birth. Now, when I'm not following spiritual life and I am continuing sinful life more and more and more, with every passage of every moment, this Mount Meru is becoming double and triple. So when I leave this body, I have increased my sinful account, but I have not increased my spiritual account. So we get to understand that if you are not offering food to Krishna, if you are not chanting Hare Krishna, then by default, it's the by default nature of this world that we will be committing sinful activities. Okay. So moving ahead, then we discuss this cycle of sacrifice that we were just discussing in 14 to 15. And then Krishna says that any person who is not doing this, doing what? That performing this sacrifice, then his life is sinful. Okay. And this would be the next section that we would cover from the next time. But first, let us cover 16th verse. Okay. This is what we covered. Anyone has any question on the cycle of sacrifice from 14 to 15? Okay. Silence means either you have questions and you are not asking.
Mataji, if you could explain it in a short, brief.
Yes, sure, Mataji. So basically from 14 to 15, these two verses, what Krishna is trying to tell Arjun is that the Supreme Lord, Akshara, from him comes the Vedas. As we were discussing, how are the Vedas coming from the Lord?
From
From
the breathing of
breathing
Lord
of
the
Lord
breathing.
Vishnu.
From the breathing of
Breathing.
Lord, the
Lord
Vedas are
Vishnu.
coming. Breathing of not Krishna, but breathing of Mahavishnu.
Mahavishnu.
Yes.
Vishnu.
Then from Mahavishnu's breathing comes the Vedas. The Vedas gives the prescribed actions. The prescribed actions that are for every type of living entity. These prescribed actions are telling about yajna, a sacrifice which every living entity should be doing. Okay. What will happen because of this yajna is the demigods would be happy and they would give rains. Okay. Now, when they are giving rains, food grains would be produced. Without rains, the food grains cannot be produced. And from food grains, the living entity's life would be subsisted. Now, when this living entity will offer food to Krishna, then his life is successful, right? This food which he is getting, then he will offer it to Krishna, and he will refer the Vedas. He will perform the prescribed actions. Because he offered food to Krishna, he's not eating sin, and his intelligence is getting purified. So then he would be very nicely able to do his prescribed actions. And with the prescribed actions and the yajna, which is chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the lords would be satisfied and they would give rains. Rains will get food grains, and the living entities' life would be subsisted. So this cycle keeps on going on. Now it is understood. Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this cycle of sacrifice is what Krishna is telling, which is very important for everyone, right? Everyone should be doing this yajnas, okay, in their life. Now let us go to 3.16 and let us read. Okay, yes. Who would like to read the verse?
Can I, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Evam pravartitam chakram
Evam pravartitam chakram
nanuvartiyati haya
nanuvartayati haya
agayurindriya ramo
aghayur indriya aramo
mogam partha sajivati.
mogam partha sajivati. Translation, Mataji.
Translation. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So what Krishna is telling, that one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, which cycle just now that we discussed in 14 and 15 verses. So any human who is not following the cycle of sacrifice, which is established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. And living only for the satisfaction of senses, such a person lives in vain. Right? There are many people who have this concept of just like eat and enjoy, right? You should just work hard and enjoy. So that particular concept Krishna is breaking here. A life which is not used in the sacrifice is a life full of sin. So let us go through the purport. Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Purport. The Mamonist philosophy of work very hard and enjoy sense gratification is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material world, the above mentioned cycle of performing yagnas is absolutely necessary.
Yes,
One
just a
who does
minute,
not
Mataji. So what Prabhupada is saying, for those who want to enjoy this material world, if someone is wanting to enjoy this material world, what he must do, the above mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolutely necessary. If someone wants to enjoy, he would actually not be able to enjoy if he's not following this cycle of sacrifice, right? Because what will happen if you can just go and see, there are so many people who just want to enjoy material life, but are they able to? That is the biggest question. They are very miserable. They are very frustrated. Actually, if you want to see if spiritual life works or not, you can just directly see the people who are around you who are not following spiritual life. Just see their life. They are miserable. Outerly way, they will tell the whole world, I'm very happy. Oh, I have my child, and one in Australia and another in US and one in Canada. And I have so much money. I have good bank balance. I have a good wife, good relatives, good social position. But if you actually just try to become their friends and just talk to them for after 2 days, and they will reveal some portion in their life where they are extremely frustrated, where they are in a mess. So it's a illusion that they want to create, that I'm very happy by enjoying sense gratification. But if you actually see, if you have the eyes to see, you would be able to see that they are very much frustrated. And in general also, people who want to enjoy a lot, when they reach their old age, because they have got the habit, so much of habit of enjoyment, now in old age their hands and legs are not working, their memory is reduced, their remembrance has reduced. Now in this old age, now they are not able to enjoy, so they become very much frustrated. Now those people who are around them and those who are not able to make them enjoy, let's say their children are not able to make them enjoy the way they used to enjoy, then they become frustrated on their children, that you are doing so and so, we used to do so much, right? There are so many things. So if you remember, I have shared that one particular lecture in our group, a now or never urgency of Krishna consciousness by Kartikeya Prabhu. So you can go back in the chat and see. Just hear that lecture. You would be able to see how old age is extremely miserable if you are not serious in Krishna consciousness. Okay, so this is what Prabhupada is trying to say, that even if you want to enjoy, you still should be doing the performing of this yagyas. And we will discuss in detail. Okay, let me first go through the points and then we can read the purport. These points are based on the purport only. So what Krishna was saying, that such people are living a sinful life who are not living by doing sacrifice, and their life is totally a waste. Now, what is basically happening to those who want to enjoy a lot of sense gratification is that they are not they are not performing the purpose of human life. By default, by nature's law, this human form of life which we have got, which is very rare, is specifically meant for self realization and not for sense gratification. Anyone would like to we have discussed this many times, anyone would like to just tell me in a word that how human life is for self realization?
So that we can go to, so that we can head back to Godhead.
Yes, but why only human life? Why not others?
because we have brains and we can think.
This is, yes, this is the basic logic thing, that animals do not have the brain to sit in a class and ask questions, right? It is only humans who can do this. So the only purpose of humans is to progress ahead in spiritual life, right? Which if we are not doing, then we are basically doing sense gratification. Now, whoever is doing sense gratification is in complete misery, just like what we discussed some time back. But if someone says that, but I have got the senses, and these senses, I want to gratify them, but I also want to fulfill the purpose of my life, right? Someone might have this desire that I have these senses, I want to satisfy them, but I also want to fulfill the purpose of human life. So what should I do? So Srila Prabhupada answers in the purport that for those who want to enjoy this above mentioned cycle of performance of yajnas is important. Okay, I guess this is not properly updated. I will update it before sharing it to you. So here Prabhupada was saying in the purport that for those who want to enjoy this material world, the above mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolutely necessary. Okay, so by performing the yajnas, you would also be able to get your material desires fulfilled, as well as you will get purified, and you will also move ahead in karma yoga, right? Now, how is it that by doing sacrifices, we will get ultimate destination? This is the most important question. Krishna is again and again saying that you do sacrifice, 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 and you will get ultimate destination. But how does it really happen? What is the process? So, this yagya system, which basically is for us chanting of Hare Krishna, this system is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without becoming entangled in the reactions of sense gratificatory work. For an example, if you want to eat good foodstuffs, you might have this desire that okay, I want to eat good foodstuffs, I will also chant Hare Krishna, but I will not fast all day long, right? So for us, so it is so easy that if we are offering whatever food we want to eat, that if you are offering to Krishna, of course that food should not be non-veg or wine or tea or coffee or with onion and garlic. There are some restrictions on that, but then that particular food is also so tasty. Those who all are eating prasadam, they know that prasad is very tasty, right? So we can have different kinds of foodstuffs offered to Krishna, and then we can also have it. So your material desire is also getting fulfilled, that you want to have good taste, and you're also moving ahead. You're not getting bound by eating that pizza and pasta and different foodstuffs that you're eating, right? So in that way, both of these things are happening simultaneously. And but this is also, like, if we are not talking about direct Krishna conscious activity, if we are talking about the karma yogi activities, wherein the karma yoga, these people are performing yajnas. Yajnas are the ahutis that they are giving, right? So this particular process is an indirect process, but it also leads to becoming Krishna conscious. Now, how it happens, that we will discuss in detail. If a person has a material desire, what he'll do, he'll refer the Shastras, the Vedas. There are sections wherein they say that, okay, if you have this particular desire, you do this yagya, you do that yagya, right? Someone might want to have a son, someone might want to have a lot of wealth, someone might want great prestige, right? There are different material desires. For every different desire, there could be different yagyas. Now, what that person would do, he has seen that, okay, the Shastra says that you must do this yagya. For that yagya, he will try to find out a priest. Now, this priest will do the yagya, and after that yagya, slowly his desires would be fulfilled. Now, what happens is, because his desires are getting fulfilled, he will get more and more faith in the Shastra. Oh, I did this, you know what? I did this and I got it, right? So there are many people who would say that, okay, I did so and so, you also try, please, you will also get the result, right? So this way he will get more and more faith in the Shastra as well as in the priest. Now, if the priest is a good Brahmana, if he's a good devotee, what he'll do, he'll try to preach him about Swarga, that you are wanting material sense enjoyment in this life, but this life you will be able to enjoy very little, because in this life the life is so short, there is so limited material pleasures that this body will allow you. So if you go to Swarga, you will be able to enjoy 100 more times than this body. So now this person would think, oh wow, this is a good idea. Why not think of going to Swarga, right? Why just want to enjoy here, but also enjoy after this life? So what will happen that he will develop this desire to go to Swarga. He'll go again to the priest and he will ask him to do the yagya for going back to Swarga, right? So now this person, this priest, this Brahmana, he will tell that, okay, whether do you know that if you go back to Swarga, if you go to Swarga, what will happen? In Swarga, even Indra is fearful of losing his position. Indra, we have seen Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, so many demons have kicked off Indra from his position. And Indra is running here and there and then going to Shirodakshai Vishnu for help, right? So Indra is very fearful. He's always in anxiety. So even if you go to Swarga, you will also have fear and anxiety, right? Because your enjoyment is limited. So then better to go to Swarga is to go back to Krishna, is to have an eternal life, which is like where you will not have any miseries and from where you will not come back. So then because of the supreme goal, from you understand what he had initially, he had a material desire. For that material desire, he started going to Shastra and the priest, and then he started developing desire for not just to limit his enjoyment here, but to go to Swarga. But after that, he also got to know about cutting this cycle of miseries and anxieties and fears and actually having an eternal happy life by going back to Krishna. So in this way, a person from Karma Kanda can become Krishna conscious. But this process is slow. It will not happen so fast. So therefore, because we have short life, it is directly recommended to start Bhakti Yoga than to start from Karma Kanda and then go to Karma Yoga and then finally reach a stage wherein you are becoming Krishna conscious, right? So this is what we have to understand. This is how the process works. That how by doing sacrifice we will get the ultimate destination, but this path is a bit slow, right? So basically the Vedic scriptures are what they are so merciful that they give a gradual progression to the higher statuses of life, especially for those who are too attached to sense gratification. Okay. So this way, this particular 3.16 Prabhupada describes the details. Now let us go through the purport. Based on what we have discussed, you would be able to understand that, okay, what Prabhupada is trying to say. Yes, Mataji, you can read the purport.
One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. By nature's law, this human form of life is specially meant for self-realization in either of the three ways, namely Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, or Bhakti Yoga. There is no necessity of rigidly following the performances of the prescribed yagnas for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue, but those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by the above-mentioned cycle of yagna performances. There are different kinds of activities. Those who are not Krishna conscious are certainly engaged in sensory consciousness, therefore, they need to execute pious work. The yajna system is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without becoming entangled in the reaction of sense gratificatory work. The prosperity of the world depends not on our own efforts, but on the background arrangement of the Supreme Lord, directly carried out by the demigods. Therefore, the yajnas are directly aimed at the particular demigod mentioned in the Vedas. Indirectly, it is the practice of Krishna consciousness, because when one masters the performance of yajnas, one is sure to become Krishna conscious. But if by performing yajnas one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles are counted as only moral codes. One should not therefore limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Mataji. Yes, so one point what Prabhupada is telling here is the prosperity of the world depends not on our own efforts, but on the background arrangement of the Supreme Lord, directly carried out by demigods. So basically, if Krishna has made this arrangement that if you perform yajna, then the demigods would shower rains, right? And then your life would be sustained. So if we are not aligning to this arrangement of the Lord, then by default, there would be no prosperity in the world. One of the examples here, which I would like to discuss, is that you would see in many famine, drought related places, and you can actually check the history of the world. There are many places where it was a famine or drought like situation, and when the devotees did kirtan of the Lord, when they actually did a lot of many people decided to start chanting the holy name of the Lord, in some days there was a very heavy rainfall. In Prabhupada's life, you can check in Prabhupada Leelamrit that once there was this situation in Kolkata, and when he actually went out to do kirtan in the streets, after that there was heavy rainfall. There are many other devotees across the world who have faced such a situation, and when they gathered many people and started chanting, after some days there was heavy rainfall and this whole situation got renewed, right? So many temples have got their places because of this activity. They used to do this, and then the people used to understand that okay, there is a solution to this activity, and which is so simple solution. So government used to give them land, that okay, you have helped the government with in such a big crisis situation, this so much land is yours. So then that particular land, they build a very big temple for the Lord. So we see that by doing this yagya of chanting the holy names, it's not just we who are benefited, but the whole world prospers. If a devotee, pure devotee, is chanting the holy names with full surrender, we do not know how many demigods are getting satisfied, and how many, basically it is because of their purity that we are also getting the benefit. Getting it? There was an instance when there was a bus and there were many people in the bus, and the bus got stuck at a hilltop. So now this bus was going this way, that way. So what happened, that people were going here and there. So they decided that, okay, what we will do, one person will go to the other side, and we'll see that, okay, because of this person, the bus is staying well, or it is going unbalanced, right? So then what happened, that everyone went on one side, and like one person was going here and there, and nothing was happening. The bus was okay. There was one boy who was alone here. Everyone was looking towards him, that okay, this boy, he, because of him, the bus is we are in such a bad situation. And when that boy went to the other side, all the people fell off. So I do not remember the story very nicely, so you will not be able to make a lot of logic out of it, but this is what the whole point to make us understand in this incident is, many times because of one person, all the others are saved, right? But we are not able to understand, if we are in association of devotees, because of that devotee, our life is saved. But we think that okay, it is my karma, I have done so pious activities in my previous life, that this life I'm having good days, right? But it is because of devotees association. We never know, if that association goes away, what all miseries will come in our life. So if we are not having association of devotees, we must get association. If we are having association, we must respect. We must not let the association go away, right? So similarly, what will happen, that the prosperity of the world will depend on our own efforts of doing the yajna. The other point what Prabhupada mentioned here was, right, so for a person who is already a transcendentalist, there is no necessity of rigidly following the performance of prescribed duties for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue. But those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by above mentioned cycle of yajna performances. So this particular point would be considered now on, from verse 17 onwards, from 17 to 21, wherein Krishna is giving the examples of people who are transcendentalist, who are not having any necessity to do any prescribed duty, but still they did their prescribed duty to set an example. He gives the example of Janaka Maharaj, who is the father of Mother Sita, and he also gives his own example. Okay, so if someone has any question? Yes, so what will Krishna tell now? That a self-realized soul, he need not work, but he still works. Why he works? He wants to set an example. And what happens by setting an example? Because common men generally follow a great person. Yad yad acharati shreshthas tat tat eva taro jana. Right? So the leaders, if the leaders are following, if the leaders are having a good life, then the common men would also be inspired to have a good life, right? So whatever leaders are doing, if the leaders are totally sinful, the common man would also become more sinful, right? This is what is happening with the movies, right? The general people who are materialistic in nature, their idols are who? These movie stars. Now, if the movie star is smoking cigarette, he's drinking wine, he's going mad after a girl, then the common men will also start to follow, right? So this is very important that Krishna is telling Arjuna that even if you think that you are at a position wherein you are a self-realized person, you are very detached, you are very renounced, right? And that is why you do not want to work, but you still have to work, because you are at a very high position. Everyone looks up to you at, okay, Arjuna, the greatest warrior. Then if that greatest warrior would flee away from the battlefield, then it would set a very wrong example. So this is how the next section would come in. So how much time are we having? Okay, we still have some time. Let's go to 3.17. So this whole section, this whole third chapter actually is a bit technical. Why so technical? Because in second chapter, Krishna gave the whole gist of everything, right? The whole Bhagavad Gita is summarized in chapter 2. But now when Arjuna wants to go into the detail, Krishna is giving the details in starting from chapter 3. Now for us, what can we do? Because based on all of your responses, I can also see that there is a bit of confusion in your head regarding what is really going on. So for you, I would suggest that you go through these verses again and again. You go through this section that I have mentioned in the slide, right? That, okay, this section tells this particular verse tells this. You go through that again and again, then you would be able to make a sense of, okay, what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. Okay, let us move ahead to the next verse. Who would like to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Oma Mataji.
यस्त्वात्मरतिरेव स्यात्
यस्तवात्मरतिरेव स्याद्
आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः
आत्मतृप्तश्च मानवः
आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टः
आत्मन्येव च सन्तुष्टः
तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते.
तस्य कार्यं न विद्यते.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One who is, however, taking pleasure in the self, who is illumined in the self, who rejoices in and is satisfied with the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. Shall
Yes.
I continue, Mataji? Purport?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Purport: a person who is fully Krishna conscious and is fully satisfied by his acts in Krishna consciousness no longer has any duty to perform. Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed, an effect of many thousands of yajna performances.
Yes, just a minute, Mataji.
Yes,
So
Mataji.
what will happen if we perform our prescribed duty of being Krishna conscious? What will happen? Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed. An effect of many thousands of yajna performances. So this is what we were discussing, right? If we are doing the yajna performances, it will lead to some result. That result would lead to later on becoming Krishna conscious, which is a slow process. But if someone has engaged himself fully in Krishna conscious activities, then immediately he would be his impiety would be cleansed immediately. Now, what is this particular thing? This all impiety within is instantly cleansed. This is not so easy. It is basically an effect of many thousands of yajna performances. But because he is being Krishna conscious, this is happening very instantly for him. So there is a slow path of going from karma kanda to karma yoga to jnana yoga to bhakti yoga, and there is a direct path of following bhakti yoga, right? So by performance of bhakti yoga, this is what we get. Yes, Mataji, please continue.
By such clearing of consciousness, one becomes fully confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme. His duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he has no longer has any obligations to the Vedic injunctions. Such a Krishna conscious person is no longer interested in material activities and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, woman, and similar infatuations. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. So this is what happens to a person who has become Krishna conscious, that he will not have any desires for sense gratification. He will not be inclined to taking pleasure in the material arrangements, right? What, like wine, women, and similar infatuations. So there are so many desires which a person has, right? Do you think that you are free from all desires now, or you can see that you still have desires? What is your opinion? I want to hear from you all.
We have now only basic desires, Mataji, not extravagant desires.
Yes. Initially, if we consider ourselves, yes, Rajalakshmi Mataji, who wanted to speak.
Mataji.
Okay. So this is what happens when we are not Krishna conscious. We have a lot of material desires, generally, of a good, very big house, and so such material facilities and such ways of enjoyments, right? Going to movies, going to clubs, going to so many different types of enjoyments, right? Having a very nice social position, people respecting you, right? There are so many things, earning a lot of money. There are so many things. But after coming to Krishna consciousness, we understand the purpose of life, and our desires are not completely wiped off, but they become, they are really necessary things which are important to carry ourselves in Krishna consciousness, right? So this is the result of knowledge. With knowledge comes renunciation, gyan and vairagya. If a person gets knowledge properly, then by default vairagya will come. By default, you would see that some or the other way you are getting renounced, and you are not renouncing the world as it, as like I want to go to Himalayas in that way, but you are on the principle of yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya is something which Prabhupada has very nicely taught us, to use each and everything in service of Krishna, to use a pen, a paper, to use electricity, to use internet, anything, any material facility that you're having, is you, if you utilize it for the service of Krishna, then basically you are doing yajna. Okay. Okay. So moving ahead, going to verse number 18. So this 17, from 17 to 35 is another section which we have just started. So which is on that the liberated person is not entitled to any prescribed duties, but he still does, for setting example. So in the 18th verse, like Krishna is continuing, we'll just complete 18 today, and then 19 we'll start from the next one. Sorry. Yes, someone would like to read the verse.
Mataji, I'll read.
Yes, ma'am.
नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो
नैव तस्य कृतेनार्थो
न कृतेनेह कश्चन
नाकृतेनेह कश्चन
न चास्य सर्वभूतेषु
न
न
चास्य
चास्य
सर्वभूतेषु
सर्वभूतेषु
कश्चिदर्थव्यपाश्रय
कश्चित् अर्थव्यपाश्रयः.
कश्चिदर्थव्यपाश्रयः.
Translation. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being.
Yes. So this is what happens to a self-realized person. His only purpose is to satisfy Krishna, right? So he will not have any purpose in doing any duties. nor he is actually attached to doing such duty or not doing any duty, and he is also not dependent on other living being. What to say of other living being in this material world, but not also the other living beings of higher planets, let's say the demigods. He is not dependent on them, because there is a verse, Bhagavatam verse, यथा तरोर्मूलनिषेचनेन तृप्यन्ति तत्स्कन्द भुजोपशाखा प्राणोपहारा च यतेन्द्रियाणां तथैव सर्वारहणमच्युतेज्य. What this verse says is that yatha taror moola nishechanena. If you water the root of the tree, all the branches, twigs, and leaves by default are nourished. Similarly, if you actually give food to the stomach, by default, all your body parts are nourished. You do not have to specifically go and nourish the hands and the legs, and not needed, because you have given food to the stomach. By default, everything else would be nourished. Similarly, if a person is Krishna conscious and his all his activity and his life purpose is to please Krishna, then every activity he is doing it is for the satisfaction of Krishna. Now he is not entitled to perform the other Vedic prescriptions of doing this yagya and that yagya and doing this and that. Why? Because he is directly satisfying Krishna, who is the source of all the demigods. So he is not entitled to satisfy each and every demigod separately. And if you actually see, there are, let's say, there are 33 crores of demigods. Even 1 year, if you give one day to each and every demigod, 1 year is not sufficient. There are so many years of your life that are also not sufficient. So anyhow, you will not be able to please every one of them. And the way of satisfying all of them is not like nowadays we see that, okay, we'll have a temple, then there is a Ganpati also, there is Sai Baba also, there is Shivji also, there is this, that, so many different deities all in one place. That's not the way how you worship them. If you actually see how you have to worship Ganpati, there is a lot of procedure. It's not like, okay, you just make the Ganpati sit in your home at one place and then you're doing all the sinful activities in that same house. That's not the way. But people think that, okay, then you will make Ganpati who is playing guitar and who is playing flute and who is having mobile in the hand. All of this is totally nonsense. That Ganpati is also not there in that particular Vigraha also. So for your own satisfaction, you have done Ganpati Puja, but the Ganpati is not satisfied at all. Okay, so a similar way, there are different ways of satisfying the demigods also. The demigods are not cheap entities. They are demigods. They have been appointed by Krishna to do some specific duties for the maintenance, like for the ongoing of this material world, just like prime minister and chief ministers are there. So chief ministers have duties. They are responsible people. They are not any person, just some person who has got that post. No, they themselves have performed a lot of pious activities in many lifetimes. Then they have got that position of becoming Indra, Chandra, so many other positions, right? So demigods are not someone who is a Lallu Pandu person. He's a very important person in Krishna's court. So if you want to really satisfy them, that satisfaction is also not easy. Okay, so it is so difficult to satisfy 33 crore Devi Devtas. Better you satisfy Krishna, and by default, they will be satisfied. It's not like we have to disrespect them. If Mahashivratri is coming and let's say someone says in your home that, okay, we must go to Shiva temple and we must offer our obeisances to him, we should not be like, oh, I worship Krishna, there's no need to go to Shiva. That should not be the attitude. See, Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He is the greatest of all Vaishnavas. We have full respect for him and we must go and take his blessings too. Like he is always chanting Lord Ram's names all the time. Similarly, we should also get this taste in chanting the holy names in all circumstances of our life. We should ask for this benediction from him. He'll be very happy, very easily. He's Ashutosh. He would be giving it to you so easily. But people, they are bewildered. They go and ask for good wife, good husband, good children, right? So just understand whose position is what, and then you would be actually able to please them. If you give Krishna's prasadi to Ganpati, he would be extremely happy. But what we do, we specifically give it to Ganpati, and that also is not done in prescribed way. And Ganpati is like, kya diya hai, pata nahi. Okay, so the whole purpose of understanding Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, right? The whole purpose to understand the scriptures is to understand what am I really doing And am I actually pleasing the demigods and pleasing the Supreme Lord or not? Am I actually fulfilling my purpose of life or not? And if not, what I need to do, right? We are not just some people who just want to show off to people that we are spiritual. We actually want to please Krishna, right? So this is a difference. We should not come to spiritual life just for show off. Okay, so yes, so this way we have completed 3.16, 17 and 18. Okay, 18 ka purport is remaining. Do you want to continue or next class?
We'll read the purport and finish it, no, Mataji?
Okay, fine. Let me.
It is very small purport.
Yes, yes, that is why I'm asking. Let us finish the purport of 18. Okay, yes, please read, Mataji.
Yeah. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A self-realized man is no longer obliged to perform any prescribed duty, save and accept activities in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not inactivity either, as will be explained in the following verses. A Krishna conscious man does not take shelter of any person, man, or demigod. Whatever he does in Krishna consciousness is sufficient in the discharge of his obligations. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes, so this is very important, that Krishna consciousness is not inactivity either. Many people think that, okay, now you have become Krishna conscious, you just sit and chant and do nothing, right? Chant and be happy. This is not the way. Even if we see the life of Srila Prabhupada, he has engaged all his disciples in so many sevas. If you see, actually a devotee works more than a materialistic person works. So Krishna consciousness is not laziness. And we should not think that, okay, this is very easy, just leave our prescribed duties. The prescribed duties are not important. You will not get bound by the reactions of your work also, and you will just sit and chant and enjoy life. So that's not Krishna consciousness. Okay, so this is what Prabhupada wants to tell through this particular line, that it is not inactivity either. Okay, so this whole purpose of Krishna conscious life starts from chapter 3, and chapter 5 is very similar to chapter 3, but there the main things about Krishna conscious ways of working is told. So if you see the names, the third chapter is Karma Yoga and the fifth chapter is Karma Yoga in Krishna consciousness. So they are very, very similar, but very important. Okay, so if you have any questions, any comments, questions, realizations, you can share. Okay. Okay, so next class we will start from verse 19. Okay. I thank you all for giving me this opportunity every Saturday. Because of you, because of teaching it to you all, I also go into a lot of depth. I hear it multiple times and then I am able to say a bit about it to all of you. So if in case this is not clear and if you're not able to understand, you can please let me know also. I would also try to improvise. And I'm really grateful to all of you. Thank you so much. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय। थैंक यू सो मच। हरे
Thank you,
कृष्ण।
Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.